Okay. Sorry about that. So then, and if there's anything that you guys ever want me to put on the website, just let me know. I mean, I just, I can add pages and change pages and whatever you guys want. It's supposed to be a useful tool for us to use, for all of us to use. So I could just change things as need be.
Okay.
It's not that big a deal. So anyway, the next thing on the agenda is the ECE Practicum Community of Practice. Deanna, Rachel, and Kim, we're down to talk about this.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Do either one of you want to start?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Hot potato, right? So I know that some of you have already, have been on the meetings. We had our last one on Friday. It has been an amazing response, grassroots efforts of people from all over the state, from the very northern to the very southern, community colleges, CSUs, UCs, privates, some administrators, really just trying to figure out, what we're going to do. We started, our first one had 235-ish participants.
Yep.
Our last one, which, over the course of time, we what do we need and how are we going to get it? So we have, with the group, broken out into breakout rooms and created 4 advocacy letters, 1 for unedited footage, 1 in support of lab schools, 1 in support of the mentor program, and 1 in for electronic versions of assessment tools like ERS, CLASS, and ASQ. And then we, on the last meeting on Friday, we did brainstorming with the group about who we actually send those letters to. Are they letters, and even within who we send them to, is this a letter where there is one letter that is sent with 400 people who have signed it, like a petition? Or is it something that you advocate on an individual basis, so multiple emails or advocacy letters are being sent out to your more local or regional people? So this morning, Kim and Rachel and I were on a call before this one, just compiling all of the different ideas from the different breakout groups from that last meeting. And it's almost compiled. And then that way we'll have it ready to send out along with the advocacy letters themselves. Did I miss anything, ladies?
Nope, that's good.
Well, we've also been offering we've been calling coffee chats, and so those have been on other weeks where we're not offering these meetings, and people are coming together to talk about. There was a list in the original meeting. We did a poll, and there was a list of other topics people wanted to talk about. So we've been using that to kind of guide the topics of those meetings. And so last week we had a coffee chat where we talked about the curriculum class and putting that online, which evolved into a discussion on building relationships and authentic relationships through virtual settings. And so that's going to evolve into a meeting that's going to look at people bringing their actual activities that they do in their classroom and really think about, now, how do I make this authentic? How do I make it mindful? How do I get students engaged in this learning? So that's going to be kind of process that we're going to follow, is listening to what people want to have time for to talk about, and that's what those are.
One of the other things that we were talking about this morning was I admitted some frustration with national organizations like NAEYC that has not, they are our national professional organization and not a PEEP. So the point was maybe they just really, don't know. They're headed somewhere else. So we're thinking about doing kind of a culmination of the different advocacy letters that the group has written to point out that, these are things that we need. And as a national, our national professional organization, we need you to be on board and advocate on our behalf as well. And so that is just something that came up in, like 2 hours ago, an hour ago. So this is a great group to bring it to. What do you think?
Agree.
Okay.
Yeah, they've been silent. I don't know.
Rachel, also, did you want to say something about that website?
Yes, why don't I share a screen so I can share it with everybody?
Yeah.
So
Right.
the other thing that's come out of this is there are so many resources being shared. It's kind of, for me, mind-boggling trying to keep them all together. And so I have been thinking about this for a while. And then at our last meeting for the COP, people were mentioning things similar. So I just sat down that night and started building this. So I'm going to share my screen. So I have been putting together, where is it?
An amazing website.
There it is. Huh?
An amazing website.
I've been putting together a website. It's called the EC Faculty Collective. It's basically a hub for people to come together and just share resources. We have on the front page a place for people to submit resources. There's a little Google Doc that people can go in and just drop me the information. If they're running into issues, there's a place for people to let me know about that. We're putting upcoming trainings on here, resources. These are just the big things right now that we hear about. Like, we're talking about the teacher performance expectations. So I put that there. We put a link to the TPP website right here. Anti-racist and anti-bias resources in general, COVID resources, trauma-informed care resources. And then I broke this out into tabs where for every course, we put some general things up at the top, but then every course is going to have its own section. And so resources that we receive will be able to be divided into these different sections. So for example, I had a woman send a bunch of resources on LGBT. And so I include those all here, but I also included those in other sections of the website as well, knowing that people might only come for one thing. And I don't want them to spend time digging around in multiple places. So it's all here, but it's also in other places. So each class has its own place. We also have faculty who have reached out saying if they could include their four-year college and upper division coursework here. So we're going to eventually build that out. We have a space for all the amazing work that Jennifer Paris has been doing. But then back in the courses, I have gone through and linked for each course. Like this first tab is linked directly to Jennifer Paris's work with her OER and the resources for each class. So each class has been linked directly. We have a whole section on all the video libraries that people have been sharing. So we have it divided into just general video libraries and then subscription video libraries, so people can go through and find all those videos that we've been talking about. And then I've added all these other tabs based on people's feedback. So we have things like a tab for lab schools, a tab for infant toddler development, dual language learners, special needs. And then there's a section we're building out with the different tools. So like one of the tools we've been talking about is the swivel. So I put a link right there. We have different websites. So I broke down a bunch of just general websites that we have access to. Deanna, this is where that investment group was.
Okay.
So I've been breaking that out. And then we have one of the faculty have suggested a parent resources tab, because even though we don't work directly with parents, faculty will want to share those resources with students. So she thought it was a good place for that. One of our other faculty has suggested putting in a tutorials page, and as she finds tutorials on things like how to make sure your items are ADA compliant, if she finds that tutorial, she's going to send it to me and we'll put it there. So this is just basically a place for faculty to have as a resource to be able to find things, and just condense and consolidate some of the information that keeps getting shared in all these meetings.
Rachel, you know, I forgot because this was introduced at the meeting on Friday. Will there be a section for EDU resources?
Well, that was the other question is, we can make it whatever we want. So if EDU wants to also hang out here, we can definitely build out a section for EDU. And we can
yeah, Jennifer was going to do that also. I'm just wondering about
add EDU classes here. We can, that's not my wheelhouse. So I would need some guidance with what EDU would like. But yeah, we can make this whatever we want. So if EDU wants to come play with us, yes, which I think they should be. Hence my little nod in the video library to them having their own section. But yeah, definitely, we can make it work.
Okay.
So I've been asking people in meetings, if you have any resources that you would be willing to share, please do not hesitate you can send them to me in an email. I'll put my email in the chat box, or you could just submit it through this Google Doc. Please add your resources so we can build this out even more and make this a richer place for everybody.
Great. Yeah, I sent it to some of my faculty last week and they've already dug into it. So
Yay.
yay. Thank you.
Okay, I'll stop sharing.
Anything else you guys want to say about the community practice?
Oh, that's amazing work. That website's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know. I wanted to make sure she showcased it because I already looked at it.
Wow.
It's like, well,
She has another career coming, I think.
I know because I've done enough websites. I know, and when you do the initial one, it's pretty time consuming because you're having to set up all the sub pages and add. Once you have it going, it's easier to just add things as they come up. But that initial push.
This platform has been easy to use. I had it set up a little bit differently, so most of the time has been reorganizing it a little bit, but for the most part, it's really easy to use and add things very easily. It adds things very easily. The biggest issue I run into is that the font doesn't want to stay the same color. And I like uniformity in my color.
Okay, so the next thing on the agenda is the EDU fieldwork committee of practice. We had a number of people that were supposed to talk about this, but I know that, Megan's not on, right? No.
No, she's not on.
Yeah, she couldn't be on. Gina's muted and she's a frozen picture, but is she listening?
I'm here. I have, if you can't hear, construction going on and it's a bit noisy. So I'm going to mute myself, but I think Michael was nominated to speak today.
Oh, okay.
I understand, to represent us.
Yes, Michael can speak and I can fill in if he forgets anything, or I'm happy to.
Yes, yeah, you might need to fill in. As I was looking through my notebook, we were doing so much talking, I didn't take very many notes the other day in our last meeting. So if I miss something, Kathleen, please jump on in. So we had our community practice. What was that, a week and a half ago or so? Out there, we had close to 90 participants from all over California. It was really nice. I saw some familiar names on there that I hadn't seen in a long time, and so that was really nice. And the primary focus of that meeting was to just see where people were at, what some of their concerns were, what some of the challenges were that they were looking at, and it was fairly productive. I think we spent a little bit too much time introducing ourselves and not getting to the program that we really wanted to get to. So we're going to rework that a little bit for the next one. But overall, we got some really good feedback from folks all over the state. Everybody is sort of in this, we're all in limbo. Just like it is for early childhood, it is with us. The differences with us is we're having to make sure that we have articulation agreements with the different CSUs in particular. And that becomes a little bit problematic in that different CSUs want very specific types of field work occasionally. For example, I think there was a comment that Megan made about Long Beach State in particular did not want any special ed. They only wanted general ed classroom experience. And whereas with SDSU, they're a little bit more open in a combination of some video and remote learning and getting into special ed and different types of things like that all seem to work for us. But different campuses have different requirements, and because there is no strong guidelines or requirements from the CTC, that kind of puts us in an odd spot. And we didn't even start to address the issue of ITEP yet. And I think if we get into the issue of ITEP with the integrated models, those 600 hours, I think we're going to open up a big old can of worms. So hopefully we can get back into the classroom sooner than later, because I think the whole shutdown with the COVID is going to really throw a wrench into the ITEP program eventually, or it's going to cause some pretty big, intense discussions. There's a PC way of putting it. So our next steps right here is I'm having to look at my email for some reason at our college has been down off and on, and so I'm having to look at it on my phone because I have it saved here. So our next steps is we're going to start looking at some solutions. So we've had people express what some of their challenges are, some of their worries, and we brought up some preliminary ideas of what we could do for people to start to explore that. Personally, Kathleen, I know you're working with a bunch of stuff. I know Megan's working with a bunch of stuff, and I've been in contact with the HR departments in our local districts. And everybody at this point seems really, really open to a little bit of innovation. Of course, we have to keep students safe. We have to make sure, we're following everything, in terms of student privacy and all those sorts of things. So, there's going to be some details that have to be worked out, but overall, some really great ideas, everything from videos to being able to do some remote learning. And there are some districts that are talking about going back. And some of those districts are open to having students and pre-service teachers go into the classrooms and work on a limited basis with their students. So I think we're seeing some movement in the right direction. The other thing that came up was that with all the stuff with the lockdown, that public schools are finally starting to see that they can do remote learning. It's not easy, but we do have a number of folks, probably in all of your districts too, where schools are losing students to the private charter schools, to homeschool programs and things like that, because their children are just not working well in the traditional school setting. And I think this is actually forcing the K-12 to kind of look at themselves, put a hard look in the mirror and see that they can actually fill those programs just as well as any private or charter program can. And so this may actually end up being a somewhat painful time of growth, but ultimately will show the K-12 that they can do that, and will offer some of our more tech savvy students the opportunity to get in and see how they might be able to one day work in a public school setting under those conditions with online remote learning, non-traditional classrooms and things like that. So we did have some good discussions, and we want to follow that through and keep it going that way. Right now there's, we have a good group of us who have been working, and it's summer for those of us, like me, I'm faculty. So this is my summer vacation, but it's actually very fun. At least for me, maybe not for my wife and my children, but for me, it's actually really fun to get in and to be able to talk about these things, be very proactive. And a lot of the feedback that we've just gotten from people is that in one way they are a little bit scared, because we just don't know what's going to happen. But on the other hand, there's also a certain amount of excitement with what we can or may be able to get into. And we really just want to build on that type of excitement. And everybody from the early childhood side of it, you all have just thrown out so many great ideas that we're able to build on and see how we can modify and apply to the K-12 system. That it's really it's a pretty fun time. It's challenging, but there's a certain, it's like a puzzle. I mean, any of us who like puzzles, you know, this is a situation, and let's try to figure it out. What piece is going to fit where? Who's going to work well in this situation? How can we get these people over here? Who's on board with it? And we actually find that we have a lot of really positive participants, and we're looking forward to our next meeting. I don't have my calendar up right now.
July 9th.
July 9th that we're meeting, and then the next, the COP is gonna,
the COP is
be on the
July 9th.
29th. All right. And then so I think we're planning on having one more before the start of the school year. So a total of 3 this summer. And just pass on the word. It was so good to see people that, like I said, Cass Katowski or Queen O'Maca College down here. I haven't seen her in maybe a year and a half, and it was great to see her on that call and stuff like that. So it's just really good to see people, and then to get into the breakout rooms and talk with folks from all over the state is just really nice. It was very nice.
And
So,
Michael, if I can add, Rachel, we've been so inspired by your coffee chat that we're actually going to
yes.
do a similar thing for EDU.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So the next one is July 9th, and there's a planning meeting, I think, on the 7th. And the only 2 things I'll add to Michael's great summary was that we haven't really talked about SPED that much. And it seems to be an issue, an equity issue around SPED students not getting service. So the talk was that one of our COPs should focus on SPED issues, and then didn't really go into too much around dual enrollment yet. Kind of waiting for the school districts to decide what they're doing, but are anticipating some challenges around dual enrollment, and making sure those students have experiences in all of our courses, the TPP EDU courses and the ECE courses. So just dual enrollment in general.
Yeah, and the other thing,
I'm going to interrupt. Oh, sorry.
go ahead.
I have a quiet
please.
moment on this side of the house. I think the LACCD got a thumbs up for dual enrollment in the fall, working with LA. So that's the only one I've heard of so far.
Great. Hopefully the school will be open.
I'm not sure, but last semester we were, when we had to go to remote, we were we were told not to have Zoom meetings with the students unless there was a counselor present. So it just went, I felt really bad for the majority of the students. They just, first of all, had to take on their high school load online, and then the expectation to perform at college level with very little support, except for just, announcements and do this and do that. There was not that warm fuzzy, let me hold your hand and get you through this like I was able to do with my, college students. So I'm hoping that they're able to create something better for the dual enrollment, because this semester I went from having 24 students down to 10 survivors. So that was bleak.
So Gina, just out of curiosity, what was the purpose behind that guidance?
Having a counselor present, it must be their rule on confidentiality, because there are high school students versus adult learners. I'm guessing we were just told not to, I couldn't even talk to them like one-on-one unless there was their counselor present.
Wow.
That doesn't sound right to me, because if they are enrolled as a college student, then they are treated as a college student.
I hear you.
I'm sorry. Just asking a question. Poor students. That was that
It was,
difficulty.
it was horrible. Yeah.
You know, I had a couple dual enrollment students that didn't even know they were dual enrollment until almost towards the end of the semester when they finally told me. And they were
Yeah,
some of
we
my
don't
top
always
students
know.
in my class. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is not students that enrolled in my college course. This is me teaching on a high school campus.
Mm.
So,
Oh, I see.
and that might be the difference.
Yeah, that could
Yeah, that could be.
So working with the high school, I had to follow their guidelines. This wasn't the students coming to the LA Mission campus.
be. Mhm.
I think it's something that we have to really be careful of, making sure we navigate both K-12 as well as community college worlds, because before, if a student enrolled in a college class, they became that college student. But
Mhm.
now as the lines become blurred, we have to get really clear on what that means. I'm a K-12 administrator too, and those rules are very clear about students not, having contact with instructors like informally, and so all those pieces are really surfacing right now. I think we have to take a look at it and address it before somebody gets, into trouble.
So
But
Kim, which district are you in?
I'm with the Parho Valley Unified School District.
Okay, so that went across, that wasn't just LA Unified, that went across all K.
It didn't, and as far as I know, PVUSD is in a gray area because what the rules say and is exactly what is rolling out at this time is being negotiated, and I don't know if if it's formally being negotiated or not. For example, we have tutors, many core tutors who are working, who are available to work with students, but we were also very careful to say if the tutor is online with a student, the teacher has to be either with them in the same group or have some kind of supervision and monitoring, because I think that's the piece, is K-12 needs that supervision and monitoring.
yeah, well, that's that. When it looks at the Ed 200, the field work, all of their field work should be done under the direct supervision of a credentialed teacher.
Mhm.
And so that definitely falls in. And that's another issue that came up in our meeting, was about writing out these MOUs. And of course, it's a lengthy process to get them all done. But, I think those are some of the things that maybe Kathleen, that we're going to have to talk about next time, because, the MOUs essentially become legal documents, binding documents. So we need to really delineate those things very clearly so that everybody understands. And maybe that's something that, even through the CID, that we need to go back and maybe put that in at the state level for the Ed 200 or for any of that kind of coursework.
So I want to ask a very unpopular question.
Oh, yay.
I was going to say the school district that we work with for our ECE classes, our child development classes, is Inglewood Unified, and they were busing their students to our campus anyway. So when we had the shutdown and we switched over to online, they didn't say anything about the kids suddenly not attending class, or there had to be one of their instructors online, whatever. Yadira just moved all of her coursework online because she was teaching some online classes anyway. And she uses a lot of online materials. She'll have guest speakers in on Zoom and things like that. So she just switched everything to online, and the school district didn't say anything about it. But I know that we've had a little bit of trouble or a lot of hesitation with the school districts, like for the future, when we're talking about dual enrollment classes. They're kind of like, oh, well, let's wait and see. Why would you wait and see? Just keep going.
But I think they had to wait and see because of the way the course is delivered. And again, that student success.
Right.
A lot of the students felt very overwhelmed.
Right.
And we're worried about graduating and trying to get everything done. And this was just a funky, spring was just kind of funk for everybody. But I think they're trying to be very, how do we make it work moving forward? And even to the extent when when courses are offered, like, during the school day, that has different rules than when courses are offered after the 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock, and what professors can and cannot do. So like during school hours, we can communicate grades to the counselors. But if it's after the 3 o'clock, then there's that, no, we do not. So, I mean, as an instructor,
I never understood that.
but these,
It doesn't matter what time of day it is.
That's very
I don't
confusing.
understand the time.
I know. But these are these
what does that
weird
matter?
rules. Even if you don't,
If it's a rule, it should be a rule no matter what time of the day it happens to be.
and maybe Ken can add more to it, but and I'm sure Yadira is learning these lessons as we go. I mean, nobody told me these things, and I didn't even know that there was a difference until I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't report the grades to you. That's, confidential. And then, the counselor had to say, well, that works at 3 o'clock, but that doesn't work during the 1 o'clock. I'm like, what?
I'm not going to be the one to explain the world of K-12. I don't have that much time. But I do know that there are certain rules. For example, if you have a guest speaker coming in and the guest speaker is there for a certain amount of time or a certain type of interaction, they have to be fingerprinted before they even can speak in your class in K-12. Also, there may be some union agreements that are made about contacting counselors. I don't know. I'm just projecting that some of these things are clearly rules and regulations that have been established, and some of them are things that are just emerging, and some of these things are part of an underworld that go on anyway. What I do know is I have heard that for example, a counselor saying, well, students are up at 10 o'clock at night. So the community college counselors contacting high school students and just, texting. And that in the K-12 world is, really not something that's acceptable or legal.
Taboo.
Right, correct. And so I think in all, having a uniform MOU across the state, or one as clear as we can be, and then with some room for flexibility at the local level would be really helpful. Because if we start having all these different MOUs with different allowances going on, I think we'll run into more problems along the way.
I think the bigger, more important question is having dual enrollment classes right now actually in the best interest of the students? Because from what I'm hearing, it's not. From all of the barriers that are being put up in this system and that system, and having to focus on how to learn online if that's not been my format beforehand. And we know the struggles that the K-12 world had in the spring. We know that that's not being solved very well for the fall. We know that districts don't even know whether or not they're going to have classes, and if they do, what kind of format that's going to be. So I think the more basic questions before we even get to MOUs is offering dual enrollment classes. Is that actually in the best interest of high school students? Because adding more pressure with a different system that isn't functioning as well as it should be, because even in the best case scenario, when dual enrollment classes are offered, they often don't run very smoothly anyways because of the difference in the two systems. So I think that that's something that we should also be asking ourselves. So that was my unpopular question.
Not unpopular, just reality.
Well, but then like down here in our area in the South County in San Diego, we have a situation where we have had a very tough situation with our middle school and high school district, Sweetwater, where they're like $35 million in the hole. They're laying off hundreds of teachers, and their district itself is just kind of falling apart because of money mismanagement. And unfortunately, in our case, and it's the students who often bring this up, is that it's the schools in the poorest neighborhoods who are having their resources cut the most. And so instead of having students go and taking AP classes, for example, we can have them come and take
Right.
first year English or something like that. And I don't get into the EDU stuff with them. I haven't offered that as dual enrollment because I think that just becomes a little too much. And I personally would like to have our students in the EDU program be a little bit more mature than 16 or 17, and that's just a personal preference. But you know, at the end of the day, when they come in and they take an English class or a math class or something like that, then they don't have to take the AP exam. And they can, if they go through and they are successful, of course, they're going to have to be very self-driven. And Deanna, you bring up some really good points about that. And we have to have teachers in there who are very sensitive to working between the two systems. And so, you know, and one of the other good things is we do have a number of faculty in our high schools who are qualified to teach at the community college. And if we can get them to teach at the community college and help oversee some of that dual enrollment, that could become a really good option. But when it comes to the child development, the early childhood and the EDU stuff, I'll agree that becomes a little bit sticky there, because I don't know if I want 16-year-olds going in and working online with, sixth graders. I just don't know if that's really in the best interest of everybody. And not to say that it's bad, but it can become problematic. And normally I probably wouldn't even be thinking of all this stuff, but as a coach, I have to take all these classes on sexual harassment and imbalance of power between, groups. And even as a coach, if you have a 16-year-old working with 13-year-olds, there becomes an imbalance of power. And you have to, as a certified coach, supervise a teenager who may be helping out with training with your team. And it's the same kind of thing as a credentialed teacher having a pre-service teacher come into a classroom. And it does become, it creates an extra workload. And for me to do it for an hour, a couple times a week is one thing, but for somebody to have to oversee 30 plus students in a K-12 classroom online, plus this other teenager coming in and helping out, and that could create a recipe for disaster even between the relationship between the community college and the K-12 districts. So Deanna, you bring up some really good points there that I think I think are worth having a really heartfelt discussion about.
Yeah, thanks, Deanna, for the hard questions. I'm gonna be the time police because I just looked at the clock, and I know that Kathleen needs to be heading out.
And
So the next thing on the agenda.
Joined us too. Hi, Colleen.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, and welcome, Colleen. I saw your face pop up.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah,
I'm in the car, so I'm just listening in.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, Kathleen, you're next about the CTC permit provisions work group.
Yeah, it's not so relevant to this group in that it's more of a TPP, an ECE issue, but there's about 5 of us that are on a child development permit work group modeled after the credential modifications that were made earlier. There was an understanding that really no modifications were made for permit applications. So I think we only have 2 meetings, and then the recommendations are going to go to the CTC. And everything was discussed from streamlining the permit to the application process to waiving certain things because of the issues right now with coursework. I had a lot of concerns around translation of applications. Many of my students are English language learners. Many of my students do these apps on their phones, and it's not conducive to phone, applications. So they're just looking at waiving, trying to be helpful for the students trying to apply. We're really, at our college, are anticipating a huge influx of new staff. We know a lot of our older folks are not going to go back to the jobs because they're at too high of risk. And so I even suggested funding some of the core courses for those colleges like ours that have had big cuts, because we're just not going to be able to keep up with the workforce needs. So anyway, 2 more meetings. We'll see. Kate Brown's on it. She sits on the CTC committee. I think, you know, I'm glad they're looking at modifications. I think a lot more has to be done. I know, you know, they worked earlier on EDU exceptions for CBEST and CSAT. I think so. I would personally like to see some of those modifications extended. I just don't know how, you know, 1 semester is going to be enough for our students. But anyway, that's it. And then I think the other thing I was on the agenda for with Steve had to do with ACTEP, and Steve and I can tag team. Megan is our membership person, and so the membership year for ACTEP comes out July 1, so folks are encouraged to either renew or join the professional organization for California teacher preparation. And Megan has materials available, and she's been sending out emails to all existing members. And then there's also been some emails sent out for communities of practice for leads. And I know, Kim, I think I gave your name because you and I had emailed before as someone being interested in helping, you know, with keeping those communities of practice going. And Steve, I think you were going to cover legislation and anything else I forgot.
Right, yeah. So I think the communities of practice statewide, trying to identify everybody in all the little nooks and corners of the state who are doing this work collectively, so that we can bring more people into the conversations about things that are happening with teacher prep. So if you, you know, are interested in doing that, we would really appreciate that, because I think, you know, as Michael, you said, you saw someone you haven't seen for like 1.5 years, but, you know, is doing a similar work. I think we really just need to try to find all those individuals who are doing this work collectively, so we can share all the amazing resources that are being put together, and the conversations, you know, more systematically, I would say. So yeah, I have been tracking a couple pieces of legislation that you're probably familiar with related to teacher prep, particularly related to the CBEST and the CSET. There are 2 bills right now before the state legislature looking at trying to change the way basic skills proficiency is measured, as well as subject matter proficiency, the CSET and the CBEST. So one is AB 1982, and the other one is AB 2485. And so I'm not sure how familiar you are with those 2 pieces of legislation, but they look like they're getting a lot of support, and will hopefully change up the test-only options for CSET, and then really help consolidate some of the things with CBEST, so that the big thing is that they'll be able to use, students will be able to use college-level English, college-level math, and a college-level reading/critical thinking course to satisfy basic skills proficiency, which only makes sense, because if I can use an AP exam to satisfy it, why can't I use a college course? So hopefully that will pass and make it easier for our students, 1 less test. And with CSET, they're looking at all kinds of different options as well, using a combination of subject matter preparation pathways, as well as the CSETs for students to be able to meet subject matter competence. And the other one that's coming up too, that it's already been passed, is the graduation requirement for ethnic studies for CSU. That's already been, I think, passed and moving forward. And, you know, if we think about our ITEP programs that are already impacted with coursework, you know, how is CSU going to now leverage in another course without expanding graduation requirements? So some of the CSUs who have ITEP programs probably already have a course they can identify that's part of that, but some may not, and that could potentially be a lower division course that, you know, we could also maybe engage in at the community college level and help prepare students for as well. Yeah, that was only 2 things. And then, yeah, in terms of the committee structures, we're really looking for individuals to join our committee. So if you are interested in being a part of either the advocacy and legislative committee, the membership, professional development committee, We have openings, so there's a link on our website where you can go to and say I'm interested, and we're happy to bring you in and help with some of that. And then we are planning a November or a fall meeting at some point in time. We haven't quite picked
date not firm yet, but
right. Yes, fall.
I attended the conference, a conference brainstorm meeting, and
Yes.
Group is talking about focusing on equity given the light of recent events with George Floyd and Black Lives Matter. And we're looking for topics, themes, and topics that people are interested in programmatically, as well as larger, like systemically. And so we really would like to hear from everyone what you'd like to see at those conference workshops and the main presentation.
that'd be great. You know, and I was just thinking, as Kim, as you were talking, it wouldn't be a bad idea to send out the date issues, the possible dates to this group too.
Okay.
Because the TPP, this listserv has a lot of overlap with ACTEP, but there are people on this that are not in ACTEP. So to send out the membership letter from Megan, and I'll email Megan right now because I'll forget it if I don't, to TPP, but also the dates, because we were talking about 2 or 3 dates, and maybe if folks here say absolutely not, that date's got 45 things already, that might help inform that. So
sounds good.
I'll email Megan while we're talking.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I was going to say, I'm not officially on that committee, but I have been helping Megan, and I did send her my spreadsheet of contacts, you know, like the ones I have on the map on the website. So I did send her that so she could use it for advocacy and for membership
Great.
stuff.
Okay.
So yeah. I'm helping with certain things.
Yeah,
I'm just
good.
not officially
Good.
helping.
A lot of things.
So
It's
I'm
piecemealing all this
sharing
together.
information.
Yeah, it's piecemealing it all together, so we can get a robust picture of who we have in the state, who's offering AATs, who's offering the education courses, you know, who are the people doing this work. So thank you, Bobby.
Right. No, I'm just saying. So she does have some of the context, so maybe it's a little less overlap. You know,
yeah.
I mean, so I did send her that.
Which Megan? I'm sorry, we have 3 Megans that are doing things. Megan, the membership Megan is Megan who?
Klinsky?
K,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
K.
I'm sorry, I've got all these Megans popping up, all these new Megans that. Okay, I'll tell her right now. Okay, thanks.
There are a lot of Megans. Are they all the same age? Was it a generational thing? You know, names cycle in and out. Okay, so the last thing on the agenda that Renee sent us is regional updates, communities of practice. What will your program look like in 2021? And I'm not sure you guys even want to talk about that because
I have no
we're
idea.
just all in flux anyway, you know. So I don't think anyone really has a solid plan. You know, we're just kind of playing it by ear. In addition to that, though, on the agenda, I mean, you guys all got it, or a bunch of links. You know, she put some information links that RP that came out for the community college teacher credentialing pilot, and one last nag at Michael. Are you submitting for that?
I just got confirmation from a local K-12, K-6 district, and from this county office of ed that they want to partner with that. So I'm working on it, but it's kind of difficult because
you're on vacation. You can write this right now.
Would tell that to my family. Tell
them it's due on the 13th,
and then,
so you don't have long to work on it.
And then just how to structure it, and I'm looking at all this labor market data and stuff and putting it all together. It's just it's a big task, and I've never done something to this scale before. So
well, if you want one of us to help, Renee and I or Dara, we'll help. We talked about it before. I just wanted to make sure you're applying.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna need a little. Yeah, because I don't know who else is applying. I don't know if anybody else is applying. I mean, I'm sure somebody else is, but
it's not really. I mean, it's not really relevant for us to apply for that. I mean, just the way it's structured. but it's perfect for you.
Well, I think so, but it's really for, people in rural areas, and we're in an urban area. And when I talked with Cynthia when we were up at the CCAOE in March, she said, no, you can make it work if it's written right the right way and you have the right partnerships.
Yeah.
Right.
So
She seemed to think that you'd be fine. You'd be perfect.
yeah, I just have to put it all together and make sure that, with all, when we got back from the CCAOE, I talked to the president and the vice president, and they were fully on board. Then everything happened with COVID, and things got kind of separated out, and trying to get everything back to make sure we still have all the resources and everybody can sign off and all that kind of stuff is, that is just that's a bit of a different scenario. And our grants people are all on vacation, and one's out because family members are sick. And yeah, we're probably going to need to talk, because I got 2 weeks now that I got to blazing typewriters and get it done.
The challenge,
Okay, well,
Michael,
let
with
me
that
know
one
how
is
I
that
can help.
All right.
the population that you have to serve are individuals who already have a credential or emergency credential and are working, right?
Yes.
So are there those folks that are in your county to a large extent?
Yes.
Okay. All
yeah,
right.
there are. In talking with the local district, the majority of their long-term subs and all those people, and in VAPA, we have a big VAPA, a lot of those folks, they're all in the emergency or the short-term credentials and stuff. And
Go for it.
And the district's main worry was, are they required to then hire them after they get a credential? And I was reading through the grant, and I didn't see anywhere, because they said, no, we've had these deals with like Teach for America and stuff, and it just becomes so messy, even with the school board, because they go, well, you get somebody in here, they go through TFA, we hire them, and a couple of years later, after their loans are paid off or what have you, and then they leave. So that's not who they want to hire. So we do have that. The other one that we're looking at is working with the San Diego County Office of Education through their immigration or their migrant education program. And I guess San Diego also has a program where they work with Orange County's migrant education program and Imperial Valley. So if we can connect migrant education through Orange County, San Diego County, and Imperial Valley, and potentially Riverside and San Bernardino, we have a pretty large pool of folks out there that could potentially be interested. And so it's all a matter of writing it up the right way, and then figuring out, what is this thing going to look like? Because it's a pilot grant, and how much of it is planning. And then when I was reading through it again, it doesn't say necessarily like, how long the planning period is versus when the implementation needs to begin. And I was not very clear on that. And I don't know, I probably need to email Cynthia and see if I can get some clarification, or if it's too late to do that. Because I did have a question and answer period. So, and I missed that.
I know that the far north, they're going to apply. But,
which they should.
North Central. Two of the reps were at a couple meetings we had in Sacramento. One of them actually pushed the legislation forward, so I'm pretty sure. But there's several grants, and
there's 3 of them.
Yeah, so you should apply.
Well, I will, and I appreciate a little bit of help with just kind of getting it structured and some of the wording and things. That'd be great, because we have San Diego State. So part of the thing is that San Diego State is going to bring their global campus to Southwestern. They're going to bring their liberal studies, teacher ed stuff to us. So that is going to happen starting in fall 2021. So if this goes through, we literally could have from the very first days, the very first class of college through credential on our campus to serve students.
That'd be great.
That's awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's.
I gotta go.
When we were talking about this with
See you all
Cynthia, bye. When we were talking about this with Cynthia in Sacramento, I got the impression from her that they were trying to leave it a little bit loose so that it could be flexible for different, applicants, based on like what you mentioned about, the timeline, like how long planning, how long
Yeah.
implementation, because everybody's at a different stage or a different level. And I think they were
Right.
trying to leave it a little bit loose,
Right.
a little bit
Okay.
flexible so that, that's the impression I got anyway. We can always, like you said, we can shoot Cynthia an email and
Yeah,
ask her again.
that's the biggest clarification, because when I talked with SDSU, like their dual language department, everybody's doing stuff online now. And so it's
Right.
just a matter of them being able to make sure that they have the capacity to bring in additional folks. And from my understanding is that this would be more of an open access, where they wouldn't necessarily have to apply directly to SDSU, but it would open up more of an open access type of program. So
Right.
if that's the case and they're willing to let those folks in, then, then that's really good. I think we'd need at least a year to really plan it out to make sure that everything was set correctly. And then also the other thing was with the funding. As I don't have it all memorized, I could pull it up real quick, but it doesn't say, it says, your funds can be used for these certain things, but it doesn't say about paying faculty. Is this going to go towards reassigned time, or can some of those funds be used for faculty salaries to work on the planning of this? And there's not a place in there that I saw where it actually states how much or what percentage, like when we did the
allowable costs.
Yeah. The Ed Futures grant, I think it allowed up to like 60%, and it said it very clearly in there.
Right.
This grant doesn't say that. And so I think for me, if I was to do this and to take it over, working on another grant that I'm working on with SDSU right now, they'd probably want, they're going to sit there and go, so basically you're going to be 100% working on this thing. We're not just going to pay adjuncts to take over your teaching job so that you can go run these programs. So I need a little bit of clarification on the allowables for salaries, benefits, and things like that. So those are my
usually
two.
when they don't give you those specifics, like they did on Ed Futures, that's another way of them giving you flexibility. If you need to put 100% person on there to manage it, and or if it's just gonna, you're gonna use it for other things. I mean, that's usually why they do it that way, is to give you more flexibility, because some campuses may need to pay for staff, and some campuses, need to buy new equipment or something. I don't know, whatever it is. But so campuses vary so widely. Yeah. Hire somebody.
Yeah, there's gonna be so many talented people who are going to be without a job. If you can create a job for somebody who knows even the system, the San Diego, the K-12 system, that has that expertise already, that can come in and help you develop and help, put this thing together. That's, I think, a win.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, and these are all those kinds of things that I've had in my head, but haven't had a chance to really talk with a lot of people about. So,
right.
So I appreciate everybody's everybody's input.
Sorry for throwing you under the bus.
No.
I just wanted to make sure you weren't forgetting about it.
No, I wasn't. I have it up. It's in my queue here in my. But every time my wife looks at my computer, she says, "Why do you have all these windows open? Do you have all this stuff open all the time?" Because I'm always working on these things, and I have I said, like, some of the labor market data and all those sorts of things. I've been having meetings, and I have another meeting with the county office of ed on Wednesday morning, and things like that. So I'm definitely thinking about it, but then exactly how to put the whole thing together. I know that I'm an English teacher, so I can sit down and I can write it. But it's a matter of doing it the correct way, saying the right things, and then doing the budget. The budget's always a big thing, which means then I have to sit down with the VP and make sure that, the VPs are gonna approve the budget. And it's, we got a short window of time with everything that's been going on. So, it's just that kind of stuff. But I appreciate the nudge.
No problem. So that was all that was on our agenda. The next date that we have on the calendar for this meeting is July 29th. And we haven't set the Zoom up, of course, for that, but Is there anything else somebody wants to talk about? I know we didn't do our round table kind of thing.
Can I have one last thing?
I see your raised hand. Go
I
ahead.
put the link for the ECE Faculty Collective on the chat. I just, while you were talking, added a section for EDU coursework.
Okay.
And I did a couple of other little changes. So if there is anybody who can help me build that section out, I would be grateful so they can have the resources that we need for those classes. So I am asking you for help. And I
Okay.
put the email in there earlier, but I'll recopy it and paste it so you can have it.
R.A. Johnson. I
Yes.
see it. Okay. Colleen, did you want to say something? I know she's driving. I heard a noise on her phone. I thought she was going
Sorry,
to say
no.
something.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
No, I'm good. I don't have anything else to add, but I'm sorry that I had to jump in late. We were assembling summer STEM materials. It was the first time I was in my office since this all started. It was surreal. So I'm not prepared to share anything because I'm consumed with summer STEM at the moment.
Okay. Well, I think we're done, you guys. I appreciate you coming online. I'm just going to share the link with Renee when she comes back from vacation so she can listen to it.
Bobby, good job for you for stepping in. Team
Yes,
team
thanks,
player.
Bobby.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bobby.
Well, as long as I don't have another meeting scheduled at the same time, it's not a big deal. Just sometimes, all the meetings are all at the same time. So, okay. Well, it's nice seeing your guys' faces.
Hey, everybody.
Same.
You.
Everybody.
Bye.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Bobby.
Bobby, really quick, under what section of the TPP website is the recordings of the May's virtual workshops that you were showing earlier?
Oh, if you go to the little side menu, you know what I mean? The little drop down.
Yeah, where it says like calendars and resources for educators and all that.
It's under events and calendar.
Okay.
And it has its own page. It says virtual workshop series, May 2020.
Okay.
If you click on that, all the videos and materials are there. It's just an accordion style. So like the first one's expanded,
Perfect.
but then I have it alphabetical by a session title.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I want to put this link on our department's Canvas homepage because we have like all different kinds of resources and stuff. And I'd sent out the flyer for when it was happening.
And if you want, I can just email you the link to that page if that's
I just pulled the link and I'm going to include it in the email to our faculty anyways, so they'll have it.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just
Sounds
wanted
good.
to know where it was. Thank you, Bobby.
Are we good?
Bye.
And
What?
yeah, Rachel and Kim, we're going to meet after. I can send another link. We've got another meeting scheduled, Bobby. So I'll send
Are
you
your meetings like this just stacked on top?
today. I'll send
Okay.
another link for the three of us. All right. Bye,
Okay.
everybody.
Bye.
Bobby,
Bye,
I don't think
guys.
I've had a chance to meet you one-on-one either. I'm Kim Barker from the Antelope Valley, and it's really a pleasure to actually get
I've
to
seen your
sit in a
face on
small
different
group.
meetings, but
So, but I wanted to say hi and tell you
Hi.
how much I appreciate all the work that you're doing and just allowing so many of us to come in and be a part of all this. And it's just a really beautiful thing. So thank you very much. Truly,
thanks.
truly,
It's
truly.
not just me. But
No,
yeah.
I know, but I know that you're a big advocator behind it, and it's just very much appreciated. So thank you,
Well, thank you.
and it's really
Thanks
nice
for
to
joining
meet
the
you.
group.
Yeah, yeah, and I'll see you around.
Hey, you
All right,
will.
have a good one. Okay.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Kathleen, are you still on? Okay. Okay, the meeting is over, but I didn't start the recording until a little bit into the session. So I was going to quickly show you what I did not record. It was when I was giving information on the website and showing people where they can find the videos. If they go to the drop down right here, go to the hang on. It's being difficult now, of course, because I'm trying to show you events and calendars. You can see two of them there, the ECE and EDU Communities of Practice page, and also the virtual workshop series that was done in May 2020 page. Each of these has videos on them. We're putting the ECE and EDU Communities of Practice videos on the same page. The top, it's just done alphabetically. So ECE Community of Practice is at the top, and they each have their dates on there when the meeting were. There's two other ones, a coffee chat and Practicum stakeholder meeting. And then the EDU Community of Practice. The first one is the one that's scheduled for July 9th so that people can see it and go here and actually register for the event. This is also listed on the website calendar. And then the other two are right here at the bottom. So they're there. And then also the virtual workshop series, all of them are listed on their own page. I don't think I actually opened that up. This is the one that was hosted by the LA Teach community. And so these also are accordion style. So the first one's opened. And then they're all listed, all the sessions that were submitted to us that were videotaped are in alphabetical order by session title. And there are a few, or at least a couple that, trying to remember which ones they were that, yeah, see, they didn't record, but there are materials there, downloadable materials that are available for regarding that session. I think some people had full recording their sessions, so they're not all recorded, but most of them do have a video loaded into their different drop down. And then some of them have videos and materials. So that's what I shared. And then I also shared the top part of this additional things that were added onto the agenda about the CCA proposals and the question about this. So that was it. Just adding that on so that Renee can get an update, and anyone else who wants to on an update on the parts that I forgot to record. Hope you all have a good day. Bye.